Does signing Russell Wilson have any impact on the Giants possibly drafting Shedeur Sanders? That is the conversation today on the Colin Cowherd podcast with Nick Wright. All right, so we're going to talk about this. Now, I got to mention, Dion was he was a keynote speaker at an event recently, and he was asked about landing spots for Shedeur. And he mentioned that New York is their desirable destination, which, obviously it's New York, right? He also listed a few other teams. New Orleans was one, and he basically said any quarterback-hungry team they're happy to go to. So that's kind of where we are on the Shedeur thing. This is an interesting situation with Shedeur because the Giants did just sign Jameis and Russell. They theoretically could still take Shedeur and have some serious insulation, like to develop and protect him. So it's not an awful spot. You could argue, like, well, you pay Jameis $4 or $5 million. You pay Russ $10 million. Like, just throwing $15-20 million for an insulation. I mean, Jameis is on a 2-year deal. Russell's on a 1-year deal. So, theoretically, like, Jameis would be the Shedeur's backup / mentor for 2 years. So it's just a really interesting spot. They are not out of it. It's just kind of hard to imagine that they would take Shedeur. Now, if we keep going down the list, it's hard to imagine the Raiders would take him because the same situation with Geno Smith. Like, they just paid Geno all this money. Why would they pass on, like, Ashton Genty? What would be the plan for taking Shedeur? Then you get down to the Jets. Okay, do the Jets take him? Possible. And then you get to the Saints at 9. Would the Saints take him? Depends. Do the Saints move up? Do they keep Derek Carr? Like, what's the whole situation? If he gets past the Saints, it's hard to imagine a team drafting Shedeur before 21, which would be the Steelers. So it's a fascinating situation. He could go 2, he could go 3, he could go 7, he could go 9, or he could go 21. Bananas.
Question, though, for you on the Giants, because this is happening, like, as we're recording. So they gave Jameis a deal, just $4 million.
Yeah.
They just signed.
Is Nick Wright wearing a puka shell necklace? Respect if he is. Damn. When I was in high school, puka shells were the accessory to have. They were very classy, very cutesy. I had quite a few. I wish they'd make a comeback. Maybe they will after this video. Damn, he looks like he's about to go to Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights was a 80s themed nightclub at the Hard Rock in Biloxi, Mississippi. Boogie Nights was badass.
And Russ, do you think this means if he's there, they're not drafting Shedeur?
I think my guess is I don't hold Joe Schoen in high regard. I also hold my own opinions on quarterbacks in pretty high regard, and I hold my sourcing on quarterbacks in very high regard. So I trust my own judgment. I didn't like Daniel Jones. I didn't like Zach Wilson. I probably like Sam Darnold too much, but Sam proved what last year, which I believe, which is if you put him in the right spot, he can be incredibly productive, dynamic. I would draft Shedeur Sanders for a lot of reasons, and I talked about one on the show today. He had the worst O-line and the worst run game the last 2 years, Power 5 college football, and he completed an astounding 74% of his throws.
I like Shedeur. Like, I think Shedeur, he's very polarizing just because of, Dion and the brand and everything else, but I like Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a good player. I don't know how good, and I'm kind of the same way with Cam Ward, honestly. Like, this is a weird quarterback draft class where with quarterbacks, you just kind of have, like, because they are the best quarterback of the class, they are automatically in contention with being the first overall pick or a top 10 pick or what have you. And then you kind of have to do, like, all right, well, you got to work backwards. Are they the top quarterbacks of the class? Yes. Okay, well, then how good are they relative to other quarterbacks, like relative to other draft classes? Are they better than the quarterbacks from last year's draft class? Are they better than the ones before? Like, where did they rank? Like, I'd have Cam Ward and Dion somewhere between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. I would rather have Shedeur or Cam Ward over Bryce Young, but I don't know if they're CJ Stroud. They're somewhere in there, and that's the job. The job right now is you got 30 days. You got to figure it out. I think draft experts and front offices have pretty much decided that in that pecking order, Cam Ward's ahead of Shedeur. Cam Ward is number one, no doubt about it, unanimous number one. Now the question is this a Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels situation? Is this a Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston situation? Or is there a huge chasm between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders?
That is insane. Matt Ryan completed 60% for bad teams in college. I mean, Matt Stafford with good Georgia teams completed 61.5%. 74%? Running for your life, trailing, everybody knows you're throwing with a bad O-line and no run game. It's an astounding number. So I think you can talk yourself in and out. I still think you draft Shedeur Sanders. I still think you do.
I don't know if this is a sign. This is a sign to me of because you don't sign Russ and Jameis if you're like, we're definitely drafting a quarterback. Like, you don't need two veteran backups.
Yeah, it's a coin flip now.
Yeah.
To me, this is a sign that either they don't like him or they think Cleveland might take him.
The Jameis part is weird because I don't think anybody was knocking down Jameis's door to sign him. Russell, I understand that signing if you're New York. Because if you're going into the draft and you want Shedeur, yeah, you don't know if Cleveland will take him. You don't know if someone else will jump up and take him. So you might as well get Russell Wilson while you can get him. And worst case scenario, you get him, you draft Shedeur, you let Shedeur sit behind Russell Wilson for a year, move on to Shedeur, pay Russell, see if he can kind of get something out of Russell. He can get something out of Malik Neighbors. Brian Daboll can save his job. That all makes sense. I agree. Don't look at me like that, Nicholas. I agree. The Jameis signing is the part that's confusing because you don't need three. And why rush for that one? What do you do now if you do draft Shedeur? Are you going to dress all three? Are you going to draft Shedeur third overall and have him not dress? Or how are you going to – is Jameis going to be your third string quarterback? If that's the case, then why even have him? Like, that seems like a lot. Seems like, because if I'm the Giants, I'm okay with taking multiple players. Like, I'm okay taking Abdul Carter if the Browns take Sanders. I'm okay taking, Mason Graham, or I'm okay taking Travis Hunter. I'm not as high on Travis Hunter, but if you're high on Travis Hunter, okay, take him, right? Like, the Giants have a lot of needs, okay? But, man, if you think Shedeur is good, if you think he's closer to Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, and you're the Giants, and you've been as bad as you have been, and you have had as lackluster quarterback play as you have had, how do you pass on Shedeur?
You know what I mean? That they think there is a real chance that they don't have the opportunity to get him. Now, New England is praying it is not that they don't like him. Because the only thing that wrecks the Patriots' plans is if the draft goes like this. Cam Ward 1, Abdul Carter 2, Travis Hunter 3.
Why would that wreck their plans?
And where the Giants are like, you know what? Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter, with Hunter, moonlighting as a defensive back, and then the Patriots are sitting there at 4 and are like, Jesus, are we taking the short-armed offensive lineman? Are we
if you want to, the Patriots did just get Stephon Diggs, so because I know they've been talking about they need a top wide receiver. So, because for a long time it was like, okay, well, they're going to take Ted McMillan, but they just got Diggs. They're not as desperate. They could trade down. They're in a great position to trade down, where trade down, you're a young team, you're an up-and-coming team, trade down, get a bunch of picks, still get a good player. I know it's easier said than done to trade down, but I don't think the Patriots to be in a bad situation regardless.
Taking the kid from Missouri that should go 9 at 4. Like, the Patriots...
The kid from Missouri, Mimbu? The tackle? Is that what he's talking about?
Really, really want 2 of the first 3 picks to be quarterbacks. That way they guarantee to get, in my opinion, tell me if you disagree, I think take the quarterbacks out of it, I think there are 2 super blue chip players in this class, Carter and Hunter.
I don't think Hunter, I don't see it with Hunter. I think Hunter is average. I would say he's an average prospect at both. If Hunter was just a wide receiver, I don't think he'd go in the top. I don't think he'd go as the first receiver. I don't think he'd go in the top 10. If he was just a defensive back, I don't think he would go in the top 10. So, man, I mean, y'all hear this? It's Gotham City in downtown New Orleans. This is unbelievable, man. I'm trying to be the face of the franchise, trying to put the NFL on my back, and I got to deal with this. So I think Hunter, like, you're getting, I mean, I guess you could, I also don't think he's going to play both ways like he did in college. I see him as a wide receiver first, and then if he wants to play DB in certain situations, fine. But I wouldn't consider him like a can't miss prospect. I would say Abdul Carter, yeah, and then that'd probably be about it.
Yeah. And then everyone else, I'm sure other guys will be great players, but there's 2 guys that are like, oh, wow, that could be a non-quarterback that's the talent of a number 1 pick. The Patriots, I think, would be thrilled with either of those 2. What they don't want is both of those guys to be gone and them to be stuck drafting an offensive lineman that could be there at 12, at 4. And so I'm really curious if this is because the Giants don't like Shedeur or the Giants have intel that the Browns love Shedeur.
I would have some real questions if I was any team and the Giants passed on Shedeur Sanders. And the Browns. If they both passed on him, you have to wonder, like, these teams could not be more quarterback hungry if they tried. And they're both passing on him. That says something to me. For those 2 teams, like, I mean, like, I understand if the Raiders do, but from what the Giants and the Browns have been through, it just seems like a really weird situation for them to pass.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to and subscribe who likes pocket quarterbacks over movers. So I think eventually, and the only way to get out of the Deshaun Watson disaster is how did the Broncos get out of the Russell Wilson disaster?
Yeah.
Hit on a rookie quarterback that you don't have to pay big money for 4 years. That's the only way to get out of it. And then you just figure out ways around it. The good thing about it, this is the advantage NFL has over baseball and basketball. A weaker players union. First of all, you win negotiations. The team controls the player. Yeah,
the NFL Player Association might be the worst. It has to be the worst in professional sports. They get cooked every single negotiation.
Not vice versa. You're not getting 10-year guaranteed deals. You're not getting guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Much. And the second thing is, even if you make the worst deal in league history.
What is going on? Nicholas. Boogie Nights, Puka Shell Necklace, Red Wine. What are we doing here, my man?
Deshaun Watson guaranteed. In 1 year or 2 years, if you just hit on a player at the same position in the draft,
you can deal with it.
If you have like 1 or 2 good drafts and have like 9 starters, you're okay. You're fine.
Yeah, like, I know we talk about salary cap a lot, but that is really true. Like, you can make the worst decision of all time. You can eat as much dead cap as ever been eaten, and within a year, you can be totally fine. Denver Broncos are a great example. One of the worst situations ever. Trade for Russell Wilson and hire Nathaniel Hackett as your coach and quarterback. Then you extend Russell Wilson. You fire Hackett, hire Sean Payton, keep Russell Wilson. And does any of that matter a year later? No. And here's the crazy part. And a lot of people don't realize this. the GM for the Broncos is the same GM that did all that, and that was his. Like he came to Denver and did all that. He wasn't like there for 10 years. Came to Denver. I think he was in San Francisco. Came to Denver, or he might have got ran out of San Francisco. Someone double check me there. I think he got ran out of San Francisco. Was he? I mean, someone double check me. I'm pretty sure he orchestrated the Jim Harbaugh exit. Gets run out of San Francisco. Ends up in Denver. Immediately trades for Russell, Nathaniel Hackett. And how many of you right now would say that Denver is a well-run organization, or Denver is on the rise, or Denver is in a good spot, or Denver, you're enviable as Denver as a franchise? 1 year later, they eat the biggest cap hit in NFL history by showing Russell the door. One of the worst coaching hires in NFL history, and it's all gone because they get a quarterback in the 14th pick, and they go to the playoffs. I guarantee you, Broncos subreddit is not talking about dead cap. I guarantee you, Broncos subreddit is not talking about Russell Wilson or Nathaniel Hackett or any of that. They're talking about Bo Nix. They're talking about Sean Payton. They're talking about and in Sean Payton's first year, that's when they almost gave up a record of points in a loss. They almost gave up 70 points to the to the Dolphins.
Fine. I mean, it really comes down to if Andrew Berry drafts well last year, this year, and next year, they're fine. It doesn't matter. If Shedeur can play, you're out of it.
Which is why I think the Browns, maybe this is the logic. Because according to what you just said, it would be the Browns almost have to draft a quarterback, even if they don't love him.
Yes.
Because it's their only path. The only path
right.
for them is a competent quarterback that makes no money. Because every other, in the midst of this mess, they didn't make the playoffs because they had a competent quarterback who made no money, except instead of being a rookie, he was my age, named Joe Flacco. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was, and so that is interesting. I assumed this draft was going to go Cam Ward 1, Abdul Carter 2, because the Browns would be like, man, Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter on the edge. At least that's set. And then the Giants being the pivot point where are they taking Shedeur or not? Because the other thing for Shedeur is this. I don't know how much you've looked at it. If he doesn't go 3, he might not go in the top 15.
Well, if he doesn't go 7, 3, 7, 9, damn girl, fine. Those are the landing spots where it's like, all right, I could see it, right? I could see the Jets, I could see the Saints, I could see the Giants. I'm not saying they should, but I could see it. After that, 14 Colts, probably worth a look, but and then it's Pittsburgh.
Like the Aaron Rodgers year.
When you look at, I'm going to pull it up real quick.
There's just not many teams. I mean, you could
Saints,
say
maybe.
You could say
no,
Raiders.
The Raiders just traded for Geno.
Yeah,
they did, but you could draft somebody and sit them for a year and a half.
No, that's true. But certainly the Raiders' chances of drafting a quarterback went way down when they traded for Geno.
Yeah.
And so
further than the Geno situation is much more impactful, I think, than the Russell one. Because Russell's $10 million 1 year. Who really cares? The like I said, the Russell one isn't the question in New York. It's the Jameis one. That's the one where that kind of gives you the okay, well, if we do take Shedeur, what exactly do we do? What are we actually doing with the roster?
It's just I was doing this the other day. Tennessee 1, Cleveland 2, Giants 3. All need quarterbacks. Then it goes.
Yeah, Patriots 4, Jaguars 5, Raiders 6, Jets 7, Panthers 8, Saints 9. I mean, who does it better than me?
Patriots, Drake. Yeah. Jacksonville, Trevor. Raiders, Geno with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Jets, the Jets could, but
Jets
they also,
could.
I think the Jets really like the idea of let's, for the first time in forever, have a season where everyone's not like, how good's the quarterback? What's the quarterback doing? How are we developing the quarterback? Let Aaron Glenn set things and then go get the quarterback. Panthers 8, no. Saints are a maybe at 9, But the Saints they're tied to Carr. But then Bears, no, Caleb.
But not really. Like the Saints are as tied to Carr as the less tied to Carr than the Raiders are to Geno, and about the same as Russell, where it's like, yeah, you playing through the year. Like the Saints are in a situation where very similar to the Giants, where, okay, you take them, you sit them behind your starter, Russell and Derek, pressure's off, let them develop, and then you rock and roll moving forward.
Niners, no. Brock. Cowboys, Dolphins, Colts, I guess at 14. But
you know what would be crazy with the Niners? The Niners are in a different situation, so you don't have to do this. But when they were trying to decide of who they were going to pay, and they were, it was the conversation was like, do you pay Ayuk and Samuel and this player and that player and that player, or do you pay Purdy? I wonder if you could see all this play out. If Shedeur is there for the Niners, that would be one hell of a reset. If it's like, look, we're not paying Purdy $55 million. We'll just roll this thing back with another 3 years of a rookie quarterback. Now, they don't have the ability to know that Sanders will be there and all of that, so it's kind of a moot point. But I would be interested to know what they would do if they knew they could get Sanders.
But it is a lot of teams, and then after the Colts, Falcons, no, Cardinals, Bengals, Seahawks, Bucks, Broncos, then the Steelers at 21. Yeah. And that might be why Rodgers might, you asked me about Rodgers on the show. The one thing I didn't mention that I do wonder if it's...
Yeah, if you're the Steelers and you're like, look, unless this goes to hell in a handbasket, unless the Jets take Shedeur or the Giants take Shedeur and the Saints take Dart, more than likely the Steelers can chill, sit at 21, and get either Dart or Sanders. So if that's the case, why the hell would you get Aaron Rodgers? Like, why would you worry about that? Why would you worry about that drama? Why would you worry about that saga? Just let Mason Rudolph be your quarterback, get Dart or Sanders, let them sit for however long they got to sit, and then rock and roll.
It's a possibility is if Rodgers is trying to but trying to ensure the Steelers don't draft a quarterback. I don't want to sign with you. And then
but how could he possibly have leverage to do that? Like, don't draft a quarterback because I'll be here for 1 year. I was like, brother, what? We just saw what happened with the Jets. Like, you don't have that kind of leverage.
Getting benched for the first round quarterback. Right. I want to see what you do with your first round pick before I commit to come there.
I would much rather draft Jackson Dart / Shedeur Sanders than sign Aaron Rodgers.
There's a scenario where where Shedeur slips. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but if he gets out of the top 3, there's only a few spots for him.
It's absolutely fascinating. This draft, I've said it before, this draft I think is the I almost had a stroke, is the most intriguing draft I can remember in a long, long time. Because you have so many players, like the depth at every position, all over the place. Like Ashton Genty, generational prospect. Tyler Warren, really high-end tight end. You've got wide receivers all over the place, especially late. You've got offensive linemen now kind of climbing in there. You've got the quarterbacks of Cam Ward and Shedeur with all the star power, but who could slide. And then you have Abdul Carter, who's like a Jadeveon Clowney, like generational edge prospect. And then you have like 10 different defensive players who keep rotating in and out. The Mason Grahams, the Jalen Walkers, the James Pierce, Shamar Stewart, like they're all over the place. This is a fascinating draft. I can't wait for it. We'll be live streaming it. It's going to be a good time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below. Do you think Shedeur slips? Where does he end up? Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.